Welcome in again, Utah fans. This is Brian Ankrum with the Utah Utes Football Digest. Today we're going to be discussing some storylines and matchups for the Utah versus USC game, going to be played in the Coliseum in LA next week, this upcoming Saturday. There's a few storylines to this game. I think the first being, last year Utah was able to go in and take both games from USC regular season when USC came to Salt Lake City. And then again in the Pac-12 championship on December 2nd, where Utah rolled that game and won 47-24 to win the Pac-12, advance to the Rose Bowl, and dash any hopes of a CFP for that USC team last year. This year, it's a little bit different. Both teams had a little bit different week. They've had a little bit different road throughout the course of the year, but last week USC traveled to South Bend and took on Notre Dame at their house, and it didn't go well. Notre Dame manhandled them pretty much the whole game. Uh, Forced a lot of pressure, caused 5 turnovers in that game. That was the big storyline of that game. But I think ultimately they're coming off a big loss. They're playing Utah. This game has been circled on their calendars since December 2nd last year. So they're going to come out mad, pissed, hungry. The fans are going to be there. I know people always tend to make fun of the Southern California audiences or lack thereof, but they'll be there this game. They're going to be loud. They hate Utah. We've seen it all over social media the past year. It has become a little bit of a rivalry. And, now we're switching conferences or not going to be in the same conference, but it has developed into a little bit of a rivalry. I know Whittingham was just asked that in the presser today, and he downplayed it to an extent, but he did say that it has been very good matchups over the past 10 years. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be a little bit sad that we can't continue to develop and progress the rivalry that I think has established. The other storyline is, Utah coming off a really good win at Cal, really good in the fact that the offense started getting going a lot better than we'd seen all year. The running game looked good. The offensive line looked much better, significantly better. Having Barnes in the whole game with a full week of prep, taking ones, I think helped. He wasn't relied on a whole lot this game. I think he still needs to get his confidence and make a little more quicker decisions, I should say. In the passing game, he had opportunities where he probably should have thrown it and kind of delayed. He didn't know really whether to throw it or run it. It looked like he did get more comfortable throughout the game. So we'll have to see what that looks like against USC if he starts. We don't know what this looks like. I'm just going to assume at this point that Cam's out until he's not, until he suits up and he's on the field. But I would assume that Barnes has taken over that starting role with Cam out ahead of Nate Johnson without knowing anything else. So we'll just have to see how that looks. That's going to be one of the storylines. Utah's offense has really not been very good this year. Looked a lot better last game. Brought in one of our All-American safeties in Sione Vaki at running back, and he looked really, really good in the running back position. So we may have found a good dual threat weapon there. Hopefully they continue to give him the ball, and Jaquindon Jackson looked great. So hopefully that offense has turned a corner. But we're basically complete opposite teams. You've got USC, which is the cream of the crop in college football when it comes to offensive production. We're going to go over a bunch of matchups. I broke down kind of position group a little bit by position group, team rankings, Utah and USC, and we'll go over that here in a little bit when we start talking about the matchups. But they're the number one Uh, they're the number one scoring offense in the country. We'll talk about that a little bit. It's broken down to where it discounts any FCS games, but and Utah is one of the bottom dwellers right now. But Utah has one of the best defenses in the entire country, and USC is just quite the opposite. So that those are a few of the storylines that come to mind. I think there's quite a few. It's going to be an exciting last conference meeting, um, at least for the foreseeable future between these teams, and I can't wait. I think everybody is really excited on both sides for this game, and it's going to be a great Saturday of college football. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these matchups and break down the position groups and where we think each team can maybe have an advantage. Of returning talent at receiver, Mario Williams, Brendan Rice, got a really exciting true freshman in Zachariah Branch. When that kid gets the ball, he's electric. Just going through some of the other. Oh, they also got the actual leader in the Pac-12 in receiving yards last year, and Dorian Singer, who transferred from Arizona. What's interesting with him is he has not been as productive this year, and I don't know if it's just they're it's a problem where they've got too many riches to distribute to all the guys, where it looks like it drives some of the guys down, but he just really hasn't been productive this year. A couple catches a game, it seems like, is what he's targeting right now, or averaging, and he is someone that can very well be dangerous, though, moving forward. You can't just sleep on any of these guys because they're all top notch receiving talent. Um, they've got a pretty decent running back committee back there, led by Austin Jones. He actually came in and played quite a bit against Utah last year and did a good job. Marshawn Lloyd has proven to be a very good running back as well, for this team, and he's probably their most productive at this point in the season. So Utah has their hands full with this SC defense. One area that I think we can really, really expose them is the offensive line. Just doesn't appear to be this good this year. If you look at sacks allowed per game on the bottom right, USC is ranked 90th in the country, allowing 2.4 sacks per game. And that is with having Caleb Williams, who eludes a ton of pressure. So, maybe some of those sacks are due to the fact that Caleb does hold the ball a long time and tries to move around back there and escape the pressure and break off huge passes and big runs in the process. But I think the majority of the sacks allowed are not due to that. I think it's due to the offensive line breaking down and Caleb just not able to escape the massive amount of pressure that is put on him. That was It was pretty apparent last game against a Notre Dame team, and it's kind of been, it's kind of had that look all year, even against the lesser talent. Arizona really, I thought, exposed a lot of that. They put a lot of pressure on Caleb, and that took them to overtime at the Coliseum the week before their Notre Dame game. So I think this Utah front can really take advantage of it, because if you look down on the defensive side on the bottom half of this chart, we look at, it's whatever we see offensively with USC here, you pretty much see defensively with Utah. It's just, they're that much of a night and day team here. You look at sacks per game, we get 4. We have the nation's leading sack getter in Jonah Ellis, who has just absolutely been an animal this year, and he continues to be. I mean, he looked great against Cal. He has developed that spin move that looks unstoppable, but I think he uses that to set up some of that outside rush as well, that quick rush around the end. We've got Connor O'Toole back. He didn't play a ton last game. He did get half a sack. They kind of him and Ellis both met in the middle at the quarterback on one occasion, but I think he was still working over overcoming some soreness and just didn't play a whole lot. I'm hoping he gets a lot more run on Saturday. Van Fillinger looked a lot better, especially in the pass rush. He struggles a little bit setting that edge in the running game, and they tend to be able to scoot around by him. Hopefully, as he continues to get healthier, um, he'll start getting back into the rhythm and be able to stop that. But I don't think that's a huge concern in this game. I'm not too incredibly concerned with their running game. If you look at their rushing offense, they're similar to us. They're a little bit better than middle of the road, I would say. They got two really good backs. The offensive line, I think, does a little bit better for them in the running game, or it could just be the fact that everybody's so worried about USC's passing game that it opens things up. There's nobody in the box, specifically trying to stop the run versus USC. So I'm not too terribly concerned about that. One thing I am concerned about is Caleb Williams rushing the ball and him escaping pressure and getting out around our defensive line and busting off a 50, 60, 70 even yard run like we saw last year. One thing we can do as a defense is do more of a contained or subdued pass rush. I'm not saying lay off the gas, but once we get in the backfield towards Caleb, one thing that really happened well last year in the championship game, Gabe Reed highlighted it perfectly, is being able to break down before you get to him. If you go balls to the wall and try to get him, it seems like he can do one little slide step and avoid it nearly every time. But if you could control the pass rush, he almost folds. I mean, he almost just puts his head down and sits down from what we saw last year. So, excuse me. So hopefully that can continue. We kind of created the recipe of how to beat him last year, especially in the championship game and especially in the second half of the regular season game at home. Watching Notre Dame last week, it was a very similar recipe. I think that's what you have to do. That's going to affect more of their passing game than having a fantastic defensive secondary. If you can put pressure on a quarterback and get home, it's really going to hinder what they like to do offensively. So just talking about some of our defense while I'm at it here. So you can see the numbers. We have the number 5 scoring defense in the country. We're giving up 13.2 points per game to non-FCS schools. I want to make that very clear to everyone who's watching this, because there's other figures out there, but this takes away the FCS. We only had one. It was Weber State, so it really doesn't change a whole lot with the Utah figures. But total defense yards per game, we're 16th. We have given up some passing yards. If you look directly below that, we're 71st in the country. We've given up 240 passing yards a game. That's a lot if you're going into this game and concerned about an offense who passes for a lot of yards. I would say that number's a little bit skewed because our rush defense has been so good. I mean, that's been the focus. We haven't been too worried about any of the teams so far this year beating us in the passing game. It's been more focused on stopping their running game. The focus will be different this time. It'll be stopping the USC passing game, and I don't think we will overcommit near as much as we have and get beat on too many long balls. It's going to happen. It's an aggressive defense. It's going to happen, but take that with a grain of salt. Rushing defense, you can see that kind of what I was talking about. We're number 3 in the country, 68 yards per game, and we have faced some very good running teams. Cal with Jaden Ott he might be one of the best running backs in the country. He is one of the best running backs in the country, if not the best. I mean, he's phenomenal talent. I know he was a little bit banged up. Right before that, we played, Oregon State, who is absolutely devastating in the running game. That's what they love to do behind a great offensive line. And UCLA prior to that was running the ball very, very well until they came into Rice Eccles, and I think they were held to 9 yards with the sack yards that we got with 7 sacks that game. But 9 yards rushing, you take away the sack yards, they still didn't. They still were under that 68. So that's where the Utah defense has really excelled this year. I would be more willing to give up rushing yards this week than the passing yards, and I have no doubt that Scalley's going to dial it up and switch things up just a little bit to overcome some of that passing offense and lack of success a little bit that we've had. It's not bad. It's not bad. So we're still ahead of the pack. We're about midway. We're middle of the road on the passing offense and yards per game, I'd say. So it probably will look about like this. It's going to be hard to hold USC under 240 yards. So I mean, if we could hold them to 240, I'm going to feel very, very confident that we'll get this victory. So that is pretty much it. If you look down at the bottom, I did throw a time of possession in here. I'm going to talk more about that with Utah, but USC has abysmal time of possession, which it makes sense, right? If their offense is as powerful as they are, it hasn't taken them very long to score. So they're 109th in the country in time of possession. That is one thing that Utah absolutely needs to control. As much time that you can keep out of that offense's hands will absolutely benefit the Utah football team. So those are what we have for the USC offense and kind of the Utah defense matching up. So let's go into just the opposite and talk about Utah's offense, where we think we might be able to turn things around a little bit, and USC's defense. Okay, looking at our offense and USC's defense, it's almost very similar, like similar groups. Utah's offense probably being a little bit worse off this year, just with what we had seen through the first 5 games. Last game, it was a big shot in the arm to the offense and this team. I think they really ran the ball well, as I mentioned earlier. The offensive line, was able to get together, gel a little more, have a little more cohesion as a group, and looked great throughout that entire game. I think with Bryson Barnes in at quarterback, as mentioned earlier, will be beneficial. He's got the better arm talent, I think, on this team. He just needs to be more decisive, as we talked about, and with another week of taking number 1 reps, and as well as last week and the game, we should start seeing him get those, have that more decisive decision making and be able to rip off some of those throws. He made some good throws last week. That one to Munir McClain down the sideline was a great deep ball. He needs to do that more. I feel like he does have a pretty good deep ball. He doesn't have the biggest arm talent as far as arm strength is concerned in Power 5 football. But with confidence, he makes a very good throw. He can be very accurate. We've seen it in the past. I think just getting more of that under his belt is really going to be beneficial. And having a team like USC in the secondary is a great way to build a lot of that confidence, because they're going to give up yardage. They've proven it all year so far this year. What do we keep hearing moving into the year? We kept hearing that this USC defense is so much improved. This is a great defense. We've brought so much more talent in. To that, they have brought in more talent. This is not a better defense. I think it might be a worse defense than what we saw last year. I also have heard, I'm just going to throw this out there. I've also heard that the defensive line is, that's the strength of this defense, and they're very good. They do a great job at getting the quarterback. That might be the case. You can see that in the sacks per game, that they are getting to the quarterback. But what are they not doing? They're not playing rush defense. They're not good against the opposing running game. They're 80th in the country, giving up 152.4 yards per game. And you have to also think that's teams that are not wanting to run the ball, or not having to run the ball on them. What they're having to do is throw the ball to catch back up, because USC, to keep up with USC, they're still running the ball really well. Arizona looked great running the football against USC. They have one really good linebacker that was a transfer from Oklahoma State. He's actually a Utah boy, Mason Cobb. He does a pretty good job for him. He's their best defensive player, I think. But when you got one guy, you can't. It makes it pretty tough. He can't be everywhere on the field. He can't be in every hole. So I think that's why they struggle. They did get Bear Alexander on the interior defensive line. He transferred from, I think he was Georgia, if I remember right. Alabama or Georgia, but I believe Georgia. And he's looked pretty decent plugging up that interior, but again, overall, they haven't been good. It's been proven just in the stats, the amount of points they give up per game. Look at the last three: 43.3 points per game. The last three, giving up 30 points per game this year. They haven't really played any great offenses, to be honest. Notre Dame is coming off of some significant struggles. Notre Dame ended up scoring 48 last week against this team. A lot of that was from the 5 turnovers and short field opportunities and capitalizing on that. But Arizona the week before that, I know it went into overtime and additional points were scored there and double overtime. But this team should not give up that many points to a freshman quarterback making his first road start, I believe, at the Coliseum. So there are a lot of holes, especially in the secondary. One thing we've constantly heard all year, that's, all summer, everything, was, how great Kalen Bullock, their strong safety, was. And I saw things that were saying that he's a All-American safety and this, that, and the other. And I didn't think he was that great last year, and I still don't think he's that great. Yeah, he does pretty well in coverage. I will say that. But he doesn't like to tackle, and that's a lot of the problem with this defense. They don't like to tackle. They don't wrap up. They try to hit everyone with their shoulder and blow everyone up or knock everybody down. And every once in a while, they are going to blow somebody up. But it seems like more often than not, guys are bouncing off of them, and they're getting significant yards after the contact. So that is going to be a big opportunity again for this physical Utah football team. Having Sione Vaki come in and take a lot of running back snaps. He's a physical guy. And that's coming behind Jaquin Jackson, who is an extremely physical running back. He eyes defenders and like he seeks them out to lower his shoulder pads on them and run some people over. You saw it last game again. He straight up ran that Cal defender over, and picked up the first down. So he's going to be that hard nosed downhill in your face running back. Sione Vaki is going to be the change of pace back, which worked really well. He's kind of filling in for what we lost in Mekhi Bernard, but Vaki is a much more physical change of pace running back. If you remember, throughout the game, especially even his first two runs of the game, they were runs up the middle in the Wildcat, I believe, and they couldn't bring him down. He stood on his feet the entire time in the pile. He just doesn't go down easily. And if he can get away from people, we saw his breakaway speed last week. He blew that Cal defense away on that 72-yard touchdown run. That was very exciting to watch that kind of speed and burst once he got in the open. Another thing he does really well is he's very shifty. He kind of has natural running back moves with the ball, and I was really impressed. I mean, he's played safety his whole career at Utah, and here he comes in the first game and puts up 158 yards rushing. Him and Jaquin, very similar stories. I mean, they're our two best running backs. I mean, I still say Jaquin Jackson is our best. He's really picked it up. He's been hurt with a high ankle sprain this year. I think he's back. He looked pretty good last game, but they are our two best running backs, and one was a transfer quarterback, and the other is a strong safety. So I'm very excited to see what we can do this game with that package. That should really take a lot of pressure off of the passing game, and allow Barnes to really step up and create a good play action game and hit a lot of those receivers. Mikey Matthews being one of them. That's a key guy that can really get open a lot. He was open a lot last game and should be able to get open quite a bit against USC's defense. Munir McClain, I cannot wait for him to break out. I just keep thinking it's going to happen, and it was kind of happening against Weber. I know it's Weber, but he was looking great, and then he got hurt, and he's been out until last game. He only got one reception last game, but I think it was a 41-yarder down the left side, and once he got moving, he created separation. He outran the cornerback on that play, which is kind of what we've heard all along with him is he looks like he's moving slow, but he's one of the fastest guys on the team. He has a ton of open field speed. And so I think that's another guy that we can have go over the top. Between him and Money Parks, we may be able to get behind this secondary this week. Then you got Devon Vele. He's always Mr. Reliable, I would say. He's been so good the last few years, and I feel terrible for him this year that we haven't had an offense that can get him the ball. Hopefully he can be that possession receiver like we've seen. He's a big guy, 6'5", not the fastest guy, but runs really clean, sharp routes, good hands. I would love to see him get the ball and, pick up just multiple first downs for us this game, because we are going to need it. Mikey Matthews is going to be that kind of crosser, slot receiver. And yeah, if we can get those four guys open, which I think we can, not all of them together, obviously, but I think throughout the game with the receiving talent that we have coming into this game, really should be able to expose the USC defensive secondary. We did lose Micah Pittman for the year. Don't know what the heck's going on there. He kind of got banged up a little bit, and then he never played again. We didn't hear anything about it. sounded like he was waiting on Cam to get back. Now it's so late in the year. I don't know what happened, but apparently he's out for the year and he needs surgery on. We have no idea what it's on or what the injury is. Maybe he got hurt in practice. We don't know. Not trying to speculate here. It's just honest fact that nobody really knows except the coaching staff of what happened there. So with that, I hope that we can actually get some tight end play going again. Landon King is going to be another good pass threat in this game, and if we can get the tight end blocking game going for the running, our running game, I just, if we played like we did last week against Cal, I think we win this game. Plain and simple. The defense that Utah has is nails. They're going to really slow down this SC offense to the point of like we saw in the championship game. I have a feeling that the coaching staff knows the game plan, knows exactly what they need to do to slow an offense like this down, and now it's just a matter of really putting it all together and getting the job done. So I didn't quite go over all the numbers down here, but I mean, I left them on the screen so you could see the discrepancies. I just kind of wanted to touch up on a few of what I thought were key matchups. Our offense versus their defensive matchups, their offense versus our defensive matchups. I see us really being able to put a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams. Hopefully the linebackers can stay true to their lanes, their containment, and have somebody spying Williams the whole time. I think that'll be key at the linebacker position. But up front, that we're gonna see pressure with what we have up there on our pass rush, and would love to see big old Samote Pepa just annihilate the middle like he did last year and getting home. Keanu Tanavasa has looked so good this year on the interior line, and Junior Tafuna is getting back into the Junior Tafuna we've known and loved. So I expect to continue seeing that trend positively for Utah, and let's just get that pressure on Caleb. Let's make him beat himself. Let's not allow him to beat us. Let's put the pressure on him, bring the heat, make him make mistakes that ultimately prove costly, similar to what happened in Notre Dame. I do want to throw one thing out here. Turnovers per game. Look at this. This is the offense. So Utah has been good. We've obviously been extremely extremely conservative in our offensive game plan to make sure that we don't turn the ball over. That's one thing that Kyle Whittingham harps, constantly. But look at USC. They're 59th. A lot of that was from last game where they gave up 5 turnovers. So the point being, though, here is it is available. We're probably going to be pretty, secure with the rock, while I think if we can get some pressure on Caleb, he's proven that he'll turn it over. You saw it last year in the championship game. He threw the interception to Hubert. He got sacked multiple times, which led to fumbles. Towards the end of the game, we had the strip sack on him. So if we can put that kind of pressure again consistently, no doubt in my mind, Utah wins this game. I think it's going to be a tough one. I do think we put up points this game. I think the offense finally clicked, got quite a bit more confidence, and they're probably going to get the passing game going against this Trojan defense and secondary. And I have a very strong feeling that our running game will be just fine. So I'm not going to talk about that. We've discussed that in pretty good length. So let's get that passing game going. I think we're going to have an even better week than we did last week. I have 38 points. I have USC at 27. I think our defense does enough and holds USC under 30 points, which is probably going to happen for Utah to win this game. So that's what I'm going with, an 11-point Utah win at the Coliseum to get the fourth win in a row against USC and basically put them out of Pac-12. Well, not necessarily Pac-12 championship contention, but 100% puts them out of any college football playoff contention. They might be out already, just kind of looking at their tight games and where they're ranked. But this would put the nail in the coffin per se. And they do not get the redemption that they desperately wanted against Utah, and probably won't see Utah on the schedule for a long time, because no USC admin or coach is ever going to want to see an out of conference Utah game if this were to happen, or even if it doesn't happen, that's probably likely. So this is probably the last time we see USC for quite a while, unless the realignment puts us back in the same conference after X amount of years. We have no idea. Or if we meet them in a bowl game or a playoff game. That's really the only time we're going to be able to see them moving forward, unless things drastically change. So I can't wait. I want to end this pseudo rivalry with USC on a very high note, going into the Coliseum yet again and getting another victory with this defense. It's very well possible, but they also have a really good offense. So I think it could be a very good game, a very stressful game for both fans, I have a feeling. But I'm excited for it. Primetime game, 7 o'clock on Fox, 7 o'clock Central. I should say that. I'm in the Central time zone. So I guess it's 5 p.m. local kickoff there. 6 p.m. for everyone watching in Utah. And it's going to be on Fox. So we got a primetime game again with USC. Can't wait. Perfect time to watch a football game. Hope everybody is able to enjoy their Saturday and watch a lot of games leading up and just enjoy yourselves. Those going to the Coliseum for the game, be as loud as you can. Hopefully you can catch some tailgates, and all the fans are all the SC fans are good with y'all throughout the day. But go have fun, enjoy it, cheer loud if you're there, and go Utes.